Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name is Glenn Wilson. I am a product manager for brand display at Google. I'm very lucky to be joined today by Vivian Koo, who's a senior media planner at Razorfish.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
We're really glad to have you all here with us today. First, before we get started, a couple of administrative tips. Questions can be submitted using the Hangout Q&A app on the sidebar of your screen. If you can't see the sidebar, make sure that you're watching from within the Google Plus event page. If you have any technical difficulties, first try refreshing your browser. And at the end, there's a feedback survey in the event description. Please fill that out afterwards for a chance to win a Nexus 7. So, yay. So today we're going to be talking about viewability. And we're really excited to talk to you about viewability because it's such a huge topic, and it's very interesting. We introduced ourselves and gave you a little bit of background on us. So right now, I'd like to jump right into what viewability is, why you should care, and what are the things you can do in the future. So I'm first going to start by talking about viewability and what it is, and then get into a little bit about why it matters. So if you're advertising as a brand online, chances are you want your audience to see your ad in the right place at the right time, and then take some action because of it. Either think better about your brand or buy a product or something like that. And that's the key part of that is seeing your ad, because there's really no effect of any ad that isn't seen towards your end goal, which is better brand lift or buying something. So this gets to be really important because there's a lot of waste in ads that aren't viewed. And depending on who you ask, this can be a really big problem because 50% of ads online, display ads online, are not seen. And this gets to be a really huge problem because this is a multi-billion-dollar industry that we're talking about billions of dollars. And the offline analog to this, you see this image here of a tree in front of a billboard, but you can also imagine catalogs that show up on your doorstep that you never open and just throw in the recycle bin. So we have an opportunity with online display to be able to measure these things and reduce that waste. So currently, the Interactive Advertising Bureau has defined what viewability means. And so for everyone to agree on the definition, they've set out ads being viewable as 50% of the ad's pixels on screen for 1 second or more. And so that means that ads that are down the page, initially below the fold, and the user never scrolls to see them, or the browser is sized so you can't see the ads, that's what contributes to ads not being viewable. And so this gives an opportunity not only to detect those ads which are above the fold, which is traditionally what people think of as viewable, shift that thinking towards ads being viewable. Ads can be anywhere on the page. They just scroll into view and have the opportunity to be seen. And so having this standard is really a keystone into being able to do this measurement and hopefully reduce this waste. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about why viewability matters and why you should care. So we talked a little bit before about the potential size and the amount of ads that aren't viewable online. But really, we've only really started being able to measure these kinds of things in the past couple of years. So for the past 20 years, we've been using a lot of paradigms online that have come from TV. And one of those paradigms is buying and serving on a served impression basis. So how many impressions were bought and paid for and served up, not necessarily how many were viewable. And that's been slow going for the past 20 years, primarily because, one, there wasn't a standard, two, there weren't the technical capabilities of modern browsers to be able to detect these things, and it's only as of late, in the past few years, that we can start doing things like measuring viewability, measuring brand lift, that kind of thing. So this is a really exciting time in the industry because all of the right pieces are coming together at the right time this year to be able to solve this. So viewability has the opportunity to change the way that we do online display. And so you can equate this to being very out of focus before. And 50% of your, the old adage that 50% of your ad spend is wasted, you just don't know which half. Viewability has a chance to at least bring some of that into focus. So if we can see exactly where things are viewable and not, we can then start to make more informed choices about our media spend and where to advertise and how well our campaigns are doing. And viewability is a very good, solid first step towards doing that. So I mentioned a couple of the standards before. The standard was part of the Interactive Advertising Bureau's Making Measurement Make Sense initiative. And this is for making consistent approach and reliable metrics across platform and making them basically make sense, right? So a couple of those pillars that are really important here are shifting served impressions to viewable impressions. So that counts real exposures. And that's a pretty big shift, right? Because as I mentioned, a lot of the ads that are bought and sold online today are being transacted on a served impression basis. And once you have that core measurement where you can say this is how many ads were viewable, you can then start to do very interesting things like migrate to currency and only transacting on those viewable impressions. And that's really important because once you have that, then you can start to get transparency across multiple media, whether it's TV or digital or mobile or tablet or desktop. You can then start to compare them equally. And at the same time, having a single metric or having a set of metrics that are agreed upon and standardized mean that those metrics are going to be what matters most to advertisers and publishers. So we don't get a proliferation of different types of metrics. And finally, having all of the metrics being integrated and standardized means that it's easy to make comparisons across different platforms. So I'm not going to spend too much more time on the measurement. But right now we're going to hear a little bit from Vivian and get her perspective on viewability.
Great. Thanks, Glenn. So I'm really excited to be here, and I just want to take a little bit of time to talk about the benefits and implications of viewability and what that means to planners such as myself. So first off, with viewability comes more accountability in the space. It really helps eliminate the mystery of whether your ad was seen and helps hold publishers more accountable for providing higher quality inventory for your campaigns. Also, it helps lessen the wasteful ad spend that happens by purchasing often ad viewed versus an ad served. We're really helping minimize that unseen waste that can account for up to more than 50% of your media buys, so that's pretty significant. Viewability can also enhance the evaluation of your campaign performance, and what I mean by this is once viewability is implemented, the success metrics are all tied back to ads that are viewable, so you essentially get a more accurate portrayal of your true performance. And I think as viewability scales, it'll also enhance industry benchmarks, changing average click-through rates and video completion rates, etc., based on the viewed ads. Viewability can also help improve optimizations of your digital media. Essentially, it provides another lever for advertisers to use to optimize towards your campaign goals and better assess the value of your partners based on their viewability rates. And then finally, as viewability becomes more prevalent in the space, it will help lessen the conversion overlap between publishers. And the idea behind that is when you're buying viewable impressions, you're really helping get rid of the bottom of the barrel, undesirable, unviewed ads out there that can essentially contribute to post-view attribution or cookie bombing, where publishers are fighting over the same conversion with sort of that last cookie. So it helps clean up and declutter the space.
Great. Thanks, Vivi.
Yeah, sure.
So now I mentioned a little bit before about transacting only on viewable impressions. And now I'm going to get into the details of this. I think that's, yes. So just recently in December, Google launched buying viewable only impressions in the Google Display Network. And what this is, it's basically you only pay for ads that are viewable. And so anything that meets that viewability standard of 1 second on screen, 50% of the ad's pixels, you pay for, and anything that doesn't make that bar isn't charged. And this is available on both a network on a CPM basis on auction or reserve, and it's super simple. And we're going to show a little demo of how to set that up here in a minute. But it's one checkbox to set it up and start buying this way. A couple other notes, this works across mobile and tablet and desktop, and is available in all countries where AdWords is available. So this is available to you today, basically. So what have we seen with those advertisers and publishers who have transacted on viewable only impressions? The first thing that we see is efficiency. So like Vivian mentioned, the ads that are not viewable are not charged for. So there's no more waste there. And so we see efficiencies on both sides. We see better insights. So all of the decisions that are being made about ad spend and target and so forth are more accurate because they're being made on where those ads are actually viewable. This also leads to greater integrity because advertisers and publishers are now able to trustfully transact, and this fact that's always been kind of hanging over the transaction before is no longer there. So now they're able to say, yes, we really are transacting on only viewable, and there's no suspicion there. And like I mentioned before, the feedback is it's super simple. It's a checkbox, and so we're going to show that here in a minute. It's gotten really, really good reception so far, and there have been a lot of opinions that have come out that said this is great, this is the way the industry is moving. The senior analyst at Forrester says that 2014 is the year of viewability, and we agree. So you could probably find a lot of this press out there, and you start to see some of the shifts in the industry outside of Google moving towards viewable only. So I think what you're going to see in the year ahead is you're going to see this kind of shift that everyone's expecting. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a demo here. So I'm going to go to a live site, and I'm going to show you viewability in action. So I'm going to go to a publisher site. If it loads here we go. And so this is a normal publisher site, and what you'll see here is there's this little box here that shows some of the ads that are on the page, and you see that one of them is in view. So it shows 90% of the ad's pixels are viewable, and is counting up the time that it's viewable, and it's turned green here because it's more than a second. What you'll also notice is that there are 3 other ads that are on this page that are red and that aren't viewable. And you can't see them right now. They're below the fold. But as I scroll down, as I scroll them into view, the ad that was viewable initially is no longer viewable, but the other ads then become viewable. So there was one, and there are 2 more at the bottom here. So normally these would be excluded by ATF because they weren't ATF before. But now, because they've been scrolled into view, they were viewable. The user had the opportunity to see them. So that's viewability, and that's how it actually looks and works. And this is a really important technical point because it's really difficult to do this. most of these ads are served in a structure of a web page called an iframe. And iframes limit how these ads can look out and see where they are on the page. And Google has integrated viewability technology into the ads that we serve with publishers so that we can see out and we can see around this iframe and detect what's viewable and what's not. And so this is a really technically hard thing to do. It also gives Google really, really good coverage over our network. So now I'm going to give a demo of how to set this up in your own AdWords account. So I have my own account here, and it's going to load up here. So this is a typical AdWords account. I have a couple campaigns here, and I'm going to create a new campaign. So I have my campaign. I've chosen the display network. I'm going to scroll down here, leave all the targeting. By the way, this works with all targeting. Any targeting you choose, it works with it. Placement targeting, audience, all that. I'm going to choose a bid strategy. So I'm going to focus on impressions because I want views. I want people to see my message. And I just check this enable viewable CPM with active view reporting checkbox right here. And that's it. I set my budget. I'm going to set it to my $1 a day, and I have my campaign. And I can set my bid here, and this is a bid for how much I'm willing to pay for 1,000 viewable impressions. So I'll set my dollar here and continue. And viewability. Okay. So I'll spare you the rest of that campaign creation, but I'm going to go now into one of the campaigns that I already have set up. And you'll notice that I have these three columns here, and these three columns are statistics specifically around my viewability. And so the way that you get these columns is you click on the columns button, click on customize columns, and you'll see in the metrics here that there is a performance active view set of metrics, and you just add these. There's a little button. You just click and add each one of them and hit apply, and then you will see these three new columns. And what these three new columns mean, first is the active view viewable impressions. That is the number of viewable impressions that we were able to measure, that we measured as viewable, and that's effectively that viewable impressions number that we're looking to replace served impressions with. The second metric here is active view viewable CTR, and this is actually just the number of clicks divided by the number of viewable impressions. So you're getting a CTR that's more reflective of how many people had the opportunity to see your ad and then clicked through on it. And then finally, the active view average CPM, which is simply the spend, the cost, divided by the number of viewable impressions. So you see how much you're really paying for each view. And that's it. All of these statistics are here and available for any campaign that is bidding this way. So you can see it's pretty simple to set up and pretty easy to convert to if you're running a CPM campaign today. So I am going to go back here to our presentation. And we went through a couple of the steps to set it up. And I think now we have time for questions. Do we have any questions? Let's see over here. So the first question it's a really good question. Are viewable impressions going to have more expensive CPMs to begin with than served impressions? If yes, by how much more? This is a really, really good question because there's a perception that as soon as I switch to buying only viewable, that instantly will double the price of my ads, and that turns out to not be the case. And what we see is that bidding viewable only not only means that you're only paying for those ads that are viewable, it's also optimized towards viewy ad slots. And there are a lot of ad slots that are oftentimes very viewable, but oftentimes are not clicked. So what this bidding type tends to do is it wins these types of slots. And they oftentimes are BTF slots that just oftentimes come into view. Perhaps they're on pages where people often scroll up and down and they're always on the side, and they tend to be very viewable but not very clicky. So at least what we've seen is that there's much greater efficiencies um, in terms of buying this way. So um, uh, the answer is we have not seen prices go up. The next question is, can I get the visibility ad tool you used? We're working on a demo for this that is accessible to anyone. So that's in progress now. We hope to have that released so you can see it very shortly. We're also making it look nicer and snazzing it up and so forth. So we want to make it look good for you. The next question is, do you pay for the view as well as the click? So this is a good question as well. The answer is you only pay for the view. So if your ad becomes viewable, you then pay. But if it is then clicked, there's not an additional charge for the click. So that's a really good question. With CPC, you pay per click. With viewable impressions, you pay for the view. Yeah, here's another really good question. What is a good starting bid for viewable CPM? I get asked this a lot. This is a really great question. My recommendation is start with the CPM bid that you've been using up to now and see effectively how much traffic you get. It's the same. There's the same misconception that you'll get half the amount of traffic or it will be twice as expensive. And we just don't see that in the data. Really what we see is people start with a normal CPM bid, they'll see a certain amount of traffic, and then then they can bump up their bid from there to get additional traffic. But we see that oftentimes by using the same CPM bid, you're able to get roughly about the same volume. But your mileage may vary. It depends on your targeting. So the question is, do you have to create a new display campaign to activate the viewable impression option? How does this differ from the below the fold category option? Two very good questions. So the answer to the first question is you can convert any existing campaign to using this bid type. All you'd have to do is modify your ad group to bid this way instead of CPC. So imagine if you were converting an ad group to bid CPM instead of CPC. It's just another step in modifying and editing an ad group. The second part of the question is, how does this differ from the below the fold category option? Which I think what you're referring to is, how does this differ from targeting only above the fold and excluding below the fold? And this gets back to what I mentioned before. There's a lot of below the fold impressions that become viewable as users scroll. If you are using only above the fold targeting, you're excluding all of those ads, and that's just waste because you could still get those views at a very efficient cost to you. But if you're using ATF, you've excluded all of those. So this is far more interactive than what is just simply above the fold. Next question is, can you see data populate within the viewability columns of AdWords if you haven't switched over to the viewability standard setting yet? The question is, can I see the viewability reporting metrics for campaigns that are not bidding viewable only? And the answer is not yet. It's something that we're working on, but we have no specifics to announce yet. The next question is, does this work for display engagement type campaigns? So I think that's bidding a cost per engagement basis. That's different. If you're bidding a cost per engagement, you're paying for users who interact and engage with the ad, not for those users who have viewed the ad. So if you are focused on upper funnel type of work and you want to spread awareness, you'd want to go for views because you want to maximize your reach. But if you're further down the funnel and you want to convert those who are aware of your brand into engagers, that's where you would go with a CPE or a cost per engagement type of ad. As someone who is also a publisher, should we keep all ads above the fold? And if I recall correctly, publishers were told not to have too many ads at the top of a page. Has that now changed? This is a really good question. So the answer is there are a number of ways to optimize your page that don't include moving all the ads above the fold. And in fact, you saw, at least on the publisher page that I showed, there were several ads that were below the fold that we scrolled down to see. So as a publisher, we're coming out very, very soon with a set of recommendations on how to optimize your pages for viewability. But a couple of tips on that right now is simply aligning your page so that you have very engaging, interactive content that users scroll up and down to see and engage with. And placing your ads in the right places to be next to that content or intermixed with that content. So the recommendation is no, don't shove all the ads above the fold. And oftentimes, I think you'll also find that just because something is above the fold doesn't mean that it's viewable. There could be users who have a browser window that's sized in a certain way so you can't see the ads even though they're considered above the fold. We'll be coming out with more recommendations very shortly for how to optimize your pages as a publisher.
It's probably a lot of test and learn too, depending on how your users engage with your page and how content is aligned. So
yeah, that's definitely true. Once viewability is available, who would buy ads that are not viewable? So I imagine it becomes standard practice to just not pay for placements which are not viewed. This is a really great question too. You guys have great questions. These are great. So the answer is yes. Why would you want to pay for unviewable impressions? And so it's our mission to make all of these impressions that are transacted on viewable. And I mentioned that a little bit with the Interactive Advertising Bureau's Making Measurement Make Sense initiative, is replacing served impressions with viewable impressions. So we are going this way, and we think the entire industry is going this way. Why anybody would pay for viewable impressions, I don't know. Now that you have an option, you don't have to.
Yeah, I think it's still going to be a ways before we have more publishers participate because of the way viewability is measured right now. Up to 50% can be considered unviewable, so it's going to take some time to sort of make the right view tracking standardizations in place for more publishers to sign on. And I think once that happens, it'll definitely become a new way of how planners buy media in the space.
Great. That's the next question. Are you only able to pay on a CPM basis? Can you buy viewable impressions on a CPC? This is a good question as well. Buying viewable only is on a CPM basis. If you're buying CPC, you are paying per click, and you are optimized towards clicks. It only makes sense to pay for views on a cost per 1,000 views, or a cost per view basis. If you are bidding on CPC, there is some factor of viewability already incorporated into CPC. So it really just depends on what you're optimizing for. If you're going for clicks and direct actions because of your ad, or if you're going for brand awareness. So I talked a little bit about cost per engagement before. That's also true. So what percentage of display campaigns are currently taking advantage of viewable impressions? I can't give specific numbers, but I can say that thousands of campaigns and thousands of advertisers are using this today. It was only released in December, so this is really tremendous growth, and we've seen a lot of interest on the part of advertisers to advertise this way. And I would encourage you, if you are running a CPM campaign today, bidding on a CPM basis, you very well would like to experiment with this, try it out, and see what kind of impact it has on your metrics. In the report, will the impressions column data show data as well as the active viewable impressions? I think perhaps what this question is asking is, will the impressions column effectively mean viewable impressions in the future? I think that's what this is asking. This is the direction we're going. Yes, I don't have a specific timeline on when that's going to happen. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that have to happen before that, and Vivian referred to um, the progress that both publishers and advertisers have to make in accepting this as we go forward. But when that happens, and as that happens, we intend to convert that. So next, will the viewable option affect the inventory available? This is a really good question. So to be very specific, we are currently launched viewable only bidding for AdSense publishers. We will be adding AdX publishers in the future, and stay on the lookout for that. So it does affect some of the inventory right now, but it will include all inventory in the very near future. I think perhaps the spirit of the question is, will using this cut down my reach? And as long as you're getting AdSense publishers today, the answer is no, it will not cut down your reach. It's not an additional targeting layer. It just means that whatever you are targeting and bidding today, you only pay for that which is viewable. So it doesn't decrease your reach. The next question is there any disadvantage to using this new bidding system compared to the old way? I think the old way being referenced as CPM is legacy CPM bidding. And the answer is no, there's no disadvantage to this. Imagine it as CPM optimized for views where you only pay for views. And that's, I think the best recommendation I can have is try it out for yourself and see what kind of impact it has on your metrics, and then you can see how much better it is. So the next question is, are these the performance active view reports in AdWords? Aside from turning these columns on via the customize columns option, do we see these in the dimension reporting as well? I believe these columns are available in all of the campaign management and the display tab reports. I don't know if that includes the dimension reporting. I don't think so, as far as I know. But the reports are available in just the general campaign management. We're working on increasing them so that they are across all these things, and so that they are built in. So oftentimes, if you're looking at the dimensions, you want to see only really those dimensions where those ads were viewable. So we're still determining what the right layout is for those reports. So the next question. When will this be IAB standard so we are able to negotiate the most realistic rates with the vendors we use outside of GDN? This is really good. This is a really good question. The answer is it is standard. The IAB standard has been in place for, I think, at least a year, somewhat longer than that. So this is standard today, and it's standard outside of the Google Display Network. It's true of other viewability vendors as well. So this isn't unique to us.
Yeah, but I also think in terms of having publishers sign on and being able to guarantee views, that might take a little bit more time, and based on that is when you can truly negotiate, make goods for unviewed impressions.
Yeah, that's a really good point. There's still a lot of other technologies that are being updated with viewability now. And so this reaches across the publisher platform stack, if you will, and those are coming out with measurability metrics for publishers as well. And as they see those metrics in their reports and they can optimize their sites, then they will become more comfortable with transacting on a viewable only basis.
And what you can do is there's viewability tracking that's being offered in the space right now. So you can sort of use that for your campaigns to benchmark how publishers are doing in terms of viewability rates, to sort of have that in your back pocket, and maybe not negotiate a full make good, but know who's performing in terms of being able to show viewable ads, I think is really insightful for you and your clients.
Is this something that you do as you look at the measurability by publisher, or what do
Yeah,
you do?
so I haven't tested that yet, but I do know there's tracking offered out there. And I think it makes a lot of sense if you are utilizing a lot of different networks, especially if you're running direct response campaigns. I think all that could be very telling. If you see one publisher, if their viewability rates 70% and another's at 40, you can kind of factor that into your CPA as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it paints a better picture overall.
Mm-hmm. Well, fortunately, I mean that sounds like a very interesting way to do it. GDN, fortunately, when you buy only viewable, that can help that media mix as well, in that you're really only paying for the viewable. It doesn't matter what the viewability rate is, because you really only paid for 100% viewability.
Yeah.
So it can be part of that media mix.
Yeah, exactly. And since Google is one of the first publishers to sign on to this, I think it'd be very interesting and a test
mm-hmm.
to try it out. Yeah.
Great. Let's see the next question here. When will this translate to mobile devices? Good news. It applies to mobile devices now. It applies to both mobile and tablet, in addition to desktop. And so this becomes really important on mobile and tablet, because oftentimes tablet viewability isn't as good as desktop viewability, because the sites aren't built and optimized towards the layout of a tablet, especially if a tablet is turned to landscape, something like that. So this becomes even more important when you talk about viewability on mobile, because the viewability rates are oftentimes worse than desktop. So next question is, when having branding as an objective, this is not recommended, right? Actually,
I can take this question.
Okay.
So my main client that I work on, Razorfish, is all branding, and so there are definitely hurdles, whether or not it's a value, because you are working with a lot of endemic sites, and you're probably already buying a lot of the premium inventory. What I think could be a value is, because my client specifically does a lot of video, and there is ways of implementing viewability across video, so you can see whether or not a person's actually viewed, like your trailer assets, or if they've kind of popped open another screen, and therefore it was kind of a wasted view in that sense. So I think there's still value in branding, just being able to guarantee that the premium inventory that you're paying a high CPM for is actually being viewed. I think there's still value in using viewability across that.
So you mentioned video, and that's very interesting, and I want to make a note about this, that the video viewability standard is still being determined by the Interactive Advertising Bureau, and Google is working very closely with everyone, with multiple parties, on defining that standard. It seems pretty close, but we are working together on that, and hope to have something in the near future. So cool. Let's look at the next question. Question about the inventory was in the perspective of viewability being applied on a normal campaign sold directly to a client without the bidding system. So I think the question, if I understand it correctly, was about direct buys. Is this applicable if we're going to do a direct deal that doesn't go through the auction? I don't have specifics to announce right now, but there are the next step in the viewability journey, if you will, is being able to allow publishers and advertisers to transact directly on viewability. So look for that in the near future, but I don't have anything to announce right now. When will viewability standard be replaced served impression standard? Is that what will happen. So I can answer the second part of that first, and the answer to that is yes. Eventually, the viewed impression standard will replace the served impression standard, and the IAB, the Interactive Advertising Bureau, this is one of their pillars for viewability. So I'm very confident that that will happen. The first part of the question is more difficult to answer, when it will happen. We are at Google are working very hard to make that happen as soon as possible. But again, as Vivian mentioned, it takes a lot of adaptation for both publishers and advertisers and how they do their business today to get to that point. So we want parties to have full preparation, including having really good measurement and metrics, so that they are ready for that when that switch happens. So chances are, when it does come, you'll see it far ahead of time, and perhaps this is a good intro that it's going to happen in the future. So we look forward to that. So. Is it in the works to provide viewable impression data in CPC campaigns? The answer is yes. I can't give specific dates, but it's something that we're working very hard on right now. And we'd like to be able to show what the cost was per viewable impression in a CPC campaign versus a viewable CPM campaign, because I think you'll see that there's just much better efficiencies in getting the views you want when you're bidding in a viewable optimized way. So also look for that from us in the future. And then, how accurate are these percentages? I use DCM to traffic and analyze our campaigns, and I worry about the veracity of the data. This is a very good question. So the technology that is used in determining the viewability of ads bought on a viewable-only basis on the Google Display Network is ActiveView. And ActiveView is the same technology that's going to be used in DCM, or if you're on DCM DFA7, you already see that. It's the same technology. So in terms of discrepancies, it's our goal to minimize those by using the same technology across all of Google products. Is there a Google Help article on this? So yes. There is a Help Center article on how to configure your campaign to buy viewable only. I would search the Help Center for it. I believe you can just search for viewable impressions. And you can also go to google.com/think as well. And there are details there as well. And we hope to make this Hangout on Air available afterwards, recorded, so you can also just watch us go through this again and view the demo. And hopefully all of those resources will help point you in the right direction. Is there a document we can present to our colleagues based on your presentation? That's a really good question. I think hopefully this recorded Hangout on Air will be a good starting point. It's a video they can watch at their leisure. We hope to have more documentation and materials available in the future as well. And we're working on those. Again, google.com/think is available as well. So hopefully those answer the question. Hopefully those are sufficient. But we always value your feedback. So if you have specific things you need, please give that in the survey at the end of the Hangout. So last question. If I am running my campaign for impression only, if any user clicks on an ad, will that be charged? The answer is no. If you are buying on a viewable CPM basis, you're not charged for clicks on top of that. You're simply charged for the view. So it's optimized so that you get the most views for your dollar, and so you're not charged for clicks, simply put. So that was our last question. I'd really like to thank Vivian for being here with us today. Thank you very much.
No problem. Excited to be here.
And we're grateful for all of you joining us today. So thank you. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.